for United at the moment, there is nothing could be described pre-match as routine. You know, because they've been so poor and so up and down and so fragile. But this was about as routine once this game started as it was going to be for them, apart from that early chance. But I think Dallo sort of summed it up by saying something and not saying something, in a sense, was we got frustrated basically because we've got a bunch of players in the forward department that are not killing off teams like they should do. And I think that's kind of what he was hinting at. And Rasmus Højlund was the main culprit, to be honest. And he is a young lad, but look, he's playing in the big boy football here. And at a club like Man United, you're scrutinised a lot.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, at the moment, you can't fault his work rate and you can't fault his endeavour, but you can fault his finishing, which is pretty poor.
For United, ahead of this game, it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, Stevie, because obviously you beat Wigan, we'll sit and go, well, you should beat Wigan. You know, they're sitting 18th in League One, and obviously if you don't beat them, then it's just chaos.
Yeah, the real interest was that we know the way the game went, the way it finished, that's what we expected. But because of the way Man United had been performing, it was interesting because you're thinking, could they really make a mess of this? Mm-hmm. So that was kind of the interest level. But once that first goal went in, we knew the game was done.
Yeah, that was it, wasn't it, Mario? Obviously, your old side, Wigan, having that early chance, but in the end, the quality from United shone through.
Yeah, because this kind of games is always hard in the sense of, like, if you don't score early, it can always be a handful of games because you're waiting on and you're playing a game, and it's almost like you can never play as good as you want to play against sides like this. And regardless if it's like my older team like Wigan, but yeah, you could see that. And then of course, Craig already highlighted Højlund. This was his moment to score goals. This was his moment to really make a difference for himself. And I'm not talking even for the team, but when you sometimes you see the players, also the reaction of the players, how to get at him. In the sense of like they want him to score, and on the other side, it's also when he says something, you see the reaction of the other players around him. And I think that is kind of the moments that you want to feel like, hey, you got to make it happen, because if not, it's going to take too long. And Ten Hag came out the other day, and he spoke about Van der Beek in Holland. And he said that playing for Man United, you ask players to play for a team that has a lot of pressure. But when you come, sometimes it comes down to the individuals because they have to perform at a certain level, regardless if this size of a club is that big. You still got to make it happen. And I think that's what Højlund is going through. He's young, but he's still got to score goals. That's why they brought him here.
Yeah, Nedum, obviously he won a lot of fans, given that he came on when he finally got fit. You know, he was involved. You could see that he was passionate, he cared, which obviously an accusation that some United players haven't this season. But at the end of the day, he needs to start scoring goals.
Yeah, you absolutely do. I think for a side that's got aspirations of being up towards the top of the league, like, they tend to have a number 9 that's spearheading that sort of attack. And there are times, you know, where players will go through droughts and not have a ton of chances, and there's a bit more sympathy that way, and we can talk about service. But, you know, if we really look at some of the games that he's had, like, he's had some very, very big opportunities. And for him to not be taking them, questions will always be asked. And it was great that he scored his first Premier League goal, but, you know, fanfare around the first, because it's taken so long, isn't something that you want to be doing for yourself when you've made such a big move to the club that he's at now. So I think, you know, for now, he's a young player, as Mario said. I think that's something to not be forgotten, but there is something to be said about leading the line for a team who probably get more viewers than, say, most of the teams in England, if not all of them. Because at the end of the day, you've got people who are rooting for you, a lot of people who are rooting for you to fail. So whilst those eyes are on you, you need to be able to perform and be able to handle the critics, because of the fact that you're doing such a good job for your team. And for me, playing for this, it goes beyond just linking up the play, beyond just running channels. You have to be scoring goals.
It's an intriguing tie, as I mentioned. The draw was made before kick-off. United, and we now know, of course, will be away against Newport County or... what was the other team? Eastleigh, that was it. Yeah, I forgot them for a moment. Elsewhere, some big ties. Spurs against City, Chelsea, Villa, Liverpool at home. Nice draw for them against Norwich or Bristol City. Fulham to take on Newcastle. Nedum, away against Spurs for City.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that, you know, because I'm sure everybody on the panel can remember the last time City scored a goal at that stadium. Oh no, wait! They've never scored a goal at that stadium. So for me, I would have preferred them to be somewhere else playing against a different team. And the Spurs side, you know, that this could be one of their main focuses in terms of winning a trophy this season. Like, they're still technically part of the title race, but the cup run is there, and I think it's going to be a tough game for City. And obviously Spurs will get a version of City, which is probably going to be quite decent as well. But when the draw happened, I wasn't too pleased, because there are plenty of grounds around the country where I can have positive sort of images of City doing well there. But that one itself, for as nice as it is, that is certainly not one of them.
Gary Mabbott, who did the draw, was the last Spurs captain to lift the FA Cup. He's done them here, Stevie.
91.
Aye. Yeah. Yeah, it's probably one of only 2 or 3 that City just wouldn't want.
Well, it's been Spurs don't want it.
No, Spurs don't want it either, but, you know, the fact that we're talking about City because of Nedum, then absolutely. There's 2 or 3 teams, and Spurs being one of them, that they wouldn't want it. At the same time, they've got to be favourites.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, you can talk about not scoring at that stadium and all that, but it's the last thing that City and the players will be thinking about. They'll be thinking, yeah, we don't want to really go here. We'd rather go to Eastleigh or Newport County. Oh. But you know what? We're better than Tottenham, so we'll take it.
Meanwhile, Mario, your former team Chelsea have got Aston Villa. That is a tie that Pochettino would definitely not have chosen.
No, definitely. I mean, Nathan highlighted it for his team already. So looking at Chelsea, I don't think the only advantage for Chelsea is that the game is at home. And I think when you play at home, that of course you have the advantage. But in the FA Cup, we all know that, you know, the run that you have, regardless if they have the up and down, you don't always have to play your greatest game to make it to the final. The only thing is that you make sure that you stay alive and make sure that you, of course, we cannot say you cannot lose the games, but away from that, sometimes for finals, I don't think everybody plays the greatest football to get to the final. The only thing is that you have to make sure that that is the only thing that Chelsea can focus on, because all the other cups are not really in the race for them anymore. I mean, going after the league is something that's away, but the Carabao Cup and then the FA Cup, those are the 2 ones that they have to really focus on.
Nedum, we'll say thank you very much. Where are you heading tomorrow?
I'm going to be up in the northeast of England watching Middlesbrough against somebody else. I've forgotten who now, but yeah, I'll watch that game. I'll see you tomorrow.
I think Mario might be able to tell you. That'd be nice and warm as well for you. Lovely. Just a reminder, that game is live on ESPN+. Borough taking on Chelsea. Then it's Liverpool against Fulham on Wednesday. These games over 2 legs on ESPN+. Meanwhile, as I mentioned at the top of the show, the world of football is mourning the death of Franz Beckenbauer, one of the best ever players that the sport has ever seen. It is an extraordinary resume when you look at what he achieved, both as a player and a coach. Twice winner of the World Cup, of course, as a player and a manager as well. 6 times he won the Bundesliga. He won the Ballon d'Or twice as well. And 3 times he lifted the European Cup. Mario with us, and we welcome to the show Derek Ray, of course, our Bundesliga expert. Derek, of course, Germany in particular will feel this hard tonight, the passing of one of their best ever.
Indeed, Dan. When you think about Franz Beckenbauer, you think about one of the most recognisable people in German public life. We're not just talking about football here. And I think we knew this day was coming. He's been unwell for some time. He hasn't made public appearances, really, in the last few years. But it still is a big shock, a big jolt to the system. And I can tell you that, coincidentally, on German TV tonight, there was actually a scheduled documentary about Franz Beckenbauer. Lo and behold, that went on air this evening as a full-scale tribute to the great man. And you listed there all the various honours, and they certainly put into perspective what he achieved. But I would also like to think about the fact that he revolutionised football. In many respects, he was the ultimate elegant revolutionary. Elegant because of his style of play, revolutionary because he invented a position.
That confidence, you could clearly you see it's quite easy to see that right now, especially that front 3 or 4, if you put Odegaard in that front 4, even with Nelson coming on for Martinelli, that the confidence is low. But I think it's not all bad, but certainly the fact that it's 3 defeats in a row, that they're clearly struggling to score and struggling to find that fluidity that we saw last season, and the cutting edge in attack is an issue for sure.
it's one thing to say it's not that bad. The problem is you're going for and expected to be pushing for the Premier League title. It's complete. You know, when you're the underdog and you're coming up and everybody's giving you praise, then that's fair enough. But Arsenal are not at that stage. Arsenal are at the stage now where, having spent 650 mil in 4 years, then you're going to have to be. You're expected to be challenging for the Premier League title. And if you don't score goals, you're not going to win games, and you ain't going to be going for anything. You know, the rhetoric that Arteta's coming out with, it's not just about this one game. He's talking about over a period of time we've been so good and we just haven't taken... In the last 4 games, they've had 11 shots on target. Do you for 1 second think you're going to win anything if in 4 games you've got 3 shots on target and you're supposed to be challenging for the Premier League title or anything else? I don't think so.
I don't think there's any doubt that Arsenal are very much in this title race, right? The only reason we're peeling this back a little bit is out of the top 5 teams, if we include Tottenham in that, they're the club at the moment with the most questions. Because if Tottenham go on a run and their players get fit, or if they hit the buffers, nobody will really bat an eyelid. Not too many will bat an eyelid if Villa fall away. But if Arsenal fall away, then they will. Yeah. And going back to these games, we've got this graphic that just, if you're into your XG and your stats, we've got this graphic that says, look, if we're talking about battering teams, then the game that Liverpool had with a record amount of goals, times G 7.11, is battering teams. Now, nobody expects you to get those kind of stats.
I think it's XG, not
XG. Yeah, times G, XG, same thing. Right. But even if you half that to 3.5, right, that's still a lot more than Arsenal's average, which is 1.86. Right, now go back to the last 7 games, their average is 1.64, which is only just slightly more than the Premier League average. So, recently, they are not horsing teams and just not scoring. They've got plenty of possession, but they're not getting themselves in great positions. They are kind of just more than average, but when they get in those positions, they're not scoring. So it's not just about saying we need a £100 million striker. We need to find a guy who's going to put... Yes, that will help, but they haven't got a times G that is...
XG.
It's the same thing.
It's not.
If they have
it's from expected goals.
I just say times... How dare you? How dare you? If they haven't got a times G, I'm going to step with this now, XG, if they haven't got an XG that's obliterating everything else, then it's a little bit of a lie. And I think it is. They're only just above average in the last 6 weeks. So it's not just about, oh, we're not putting the ball in the back of the net. They're not giving teams a going over like Mikel Arteta is suggesting that they are.
Is that fair, Mario?
Yeah, it's fair. You know what the thing is also, when you looked at the first half, they had a couple of opportunities to strike the ball, and it took them too long to make a decision. Havertz had a couple of times that like the ball comes to him, he waits, and then, you wait a couple of seconds. When you're around the box, and if you're ultimate striker, you hit that ball really quickly. Okay, then the second half, when we look at the second half, they were kind of fortunate at moments in the sense of, like, if you look at Nunes had so many opportunities. There were a couple of opportunities that he could slide his players in and he would not play the ball to them. If he would have, released the ball quicker, then Arsenal could look even worse than what came out of the score. And away from that, remember, this is now, last season, they were doing incredible things. A big surprise. Now we're in the same situation. That's why at the beginning of the season, we talked about it and I said, let's wait till the winter comes. And we're in the winter now. And look what is happening. I don't want to say they fall off already, but they clearly are looking for something. And if your manager, and I saw the way he was talking, he looked very emotional. And you could say it's not, but that is also the culture where he is like. But the emotional sense of, like, he was almost asking, like, I need my goals now, but he also does not know where they're going to come from, because the guys like a Saka and, those were the guys that were scoring goals. There were 10, there was a point at the last season, there were 10 assists, 10 goals. There were numbers that everybody was like, wow. And now they're missing that. So those are the key things with Arsenal now. It's not only your striker, but the whole team needs to produce more goals. And if they can't, that's why they're looking so vulnerable at the moment.
Is the problem, Jules, well, certainly a big part of it, the fact that their big players seem to all be out of form at the same time?
Yeah, it is, and I mean we haven't done it for the show tonight, but we've compared already the numbers for Odegaard and Jesus, Martinelli and Saka this season compared to last season, and it's just day and night. And I think even if your team is maybe more solid defensively this season, at times certainly, and I think they have the most clean sheets right now so far in the Premier League with Liverpool and another team. Offensively, attacking-wise, it's just not as fluid. And we've said that even when they were top of the table after the Brighton game. We said it even before the Liverpool game. We said it's just not clicking offensively like it used to last season. And maybe the opposition teams have found a way of defending better against Saka, whether you doubling up on him or whether you show him the outside. There's different ways. I mean, Martinelli's form has been really, really difficult for him. And Gabriel Jesus has had injuries already twice in the season. So it's difficult. And on top of that, you lost Granit Xhaka as well. And if Odegaard is not creating those chances, being that kind of engine of creativity, and even him himself scoring goals, then you're in trouble. And that's exactly what they are. And I think Arteta maybe needs to find different ways of creating chances than the usual route in a way. And we saw that against Liverpool in the first half. It's a lot down to the ball to Odegaard and then the ball to Saka and then Saka one-on-one against his defender. But there's a time where that doesn't work anymore so much.
A lot of times last year they had Xhaka and Partey in the side, right? And people say, well, that's more defensive, and why they should be creating more chances now because they've got a Havertz or a Trossard and an Odegaard. But it doesn't always work that way.
Right.
You know, and Xhaka was this guy who, he had this disciplinary problem. He carried it with him into Arsenal from Germany. Now he's gone back to Germany. But last year he probably had one of, if not his best seasons. And one of the things he was doing was going out to make sort of a back three at times when the keeper had the ball, and we saw Zinchenko then would go into the middle of the park, and it gave that left side a better balance with two left footers there. And when he went into midfield with him and Partey, they had two guys that could tackle as well, win the ball, and it maybe gave Odegaard a little bit more freedom. Whereas this year, it's generally, and for the most part, yesterday was different. It was Jorginho and Rice, but generally it's just been Rice. And that's a lot of work for one guy to do with two more offensive players in front of him. So just because you're getting more offensive players into offensive positions doesn't necessarily translate into creating more chances. I think they're finding that out this season.
And what's interesting, Jules brought it up about Saka, obviously. Is it a case that he's out of form, or is it a case that some teams have sussed out how to defend?
Well, I don't think sussing out. I think you could just say the more experienced he gets, the more of a marked man he is.
Right.
Now, we know he gets a lot of treatment, so do a lot of players, and players are looking to rattle him. You can see clearly recently he has struggled. Yeah, he's getting plenty of shots away in the 7 games that he's played, but he's not very productive with it, and he's not looking a threat in front of goal. And look, I said yesterday during the game, you know, sometimes Joe Gomez is a pretty good one-on-one guy. When he's defending, we can, you know, sometimes Gomez is in the wrong position as a full-back. I know he's playing left-back yesterday or whatever. He gets caught maybe sleeping at the back post. But one-on-one, he's big and he's strong and he's quick, and it was always going to be difficult for Saka. But a lot of teams are doubling up on him.
Right.
A lot of teams are doubling up on him, and he's finding that difficult. And I think he might have to get to a point where he's pulling players, and the best players do this, where he's dragging 2 or 3 players in, and then he's feeding the ball off nice and early. And Arsenal are utilising that extra body, and others are going to go and take up the mantle. But they're going to have to do that.
If you're Arteta, what are you saying to Saka, Stevie?
He's going to have to. He has to make better decisions. You know, again, we've just shown the XG and used that stat.
Times.
And we used that stat, but then we just showed that Saka's had 29 shots. Now, somebody looking at that will go, "What? If he's a 29 shot?" The problem is, 20 of those shots are bad decisions because there's no way. They're hitting defenders' legs or hitting a defender's body, or the shot's just not on, and they're doing things they shouldn't be doing. Plus, you add that to teams are sitting deeper. You know, last season, with extra space and the pace that Martinelli has and Xhaka has and the way Odegaard could pick a pass, it was perfect for them. But this year, everybody, including Liverpool, in this game yesterday, are sitting a bit tighter. So there's less room. There's less room to manoeuvre, which is probably a reason why he's got 29 shots and it's hitting everything but the back of the net.
I might be wrong, but I think, maybe I'm wrong on this. I just look at like he's a player who has just lost a wee bit of confidence and he's doubting himself a little bit, because I'm not talking about the one he shanked yesterday at the back post in the second half, which wasn't great. But how many times have we seen this super talented guy at the moment beating defenders?
Right.
It seems to me at the moment he's coming back in a lot on his left foot, and I'm not seeing him a lot recently drop the shoulder and go away from a fullback and really get in behind and make the difference. It's just that part of his game. He's just lost that little burst of pace at the moment, and maybe that's just confidence or whatever it is, or he's feeling the heat of the amount of games that he's played in the last 18 months. I don't know, but I think there's one thing for sure. If Bukayo Saka continues to struggle, it's going to be a difficult pathway to see Arsenal winning this title.
Why aren't we seeing in taking on players more, Mario, as we're accustomed to, of course, throughout his career?
I think also, if you look at the game yesterday, Klopp played, a Gomez there with a right-footed player playing against a left-footed. So you know that Saka likes to go inside. And what is Gomez's stronger feet? Is his right. So on that scale, he knows how to block that ball quicker. And I felt like in the first couple of minutes, when the first half kicked off, Saka read Gomez because he knew his control was on the inside on his right foot. So you read that, and they could have scored out of that goal. There came a great tackle for, Konaté made a great tackle out of it, so that's why they didn't concede it. But then after that, it was that race that we talked about, the 1v1. That moment is like, it was the mental challenge, because when you as a fullback play against your attacker, it's a mental thing. It's ego against ego. How far are you willing to take me? And he would not take Gomez on in a way of like bringing the challenge to him, because he's got to run more with the ball. And one of the keys that Stevie said is that they drop deeper to make it harder for him, because there is no space. Like normally that's his strength. His strength is running with the ball and setting others up. And also the opposite side, normally it was left and right for them. Now all the eyes are focused on him. People are expecting him to break things open. And I think, that comes down to is more challenge on him and more expectation. And the talent he has, it's also normal. But then it comes down, it's going to be really, really tough for him if his team is not producing more and everybody's just focusing on him. It's going to be really, really hard for him.
Plus, Ben White is solid. Centre-half, playing full-back, has done for quite a while now. He's solid. But you don't really... He's not what I would call a full-back who you have to really worry about. I mean, you got to keep him in your thoughts and where is he. But he's not a marauding... He's more of a solid guy at the back there. So you kind of can concentrate a little bit on the threat that Saka's given with keeping half an eye on your full-back. It's not like it's Kyle Walker flying up and down the wing, for 90 minutes whipping balls in, or Trent Alexander-Arnold getting forward, as we know. So that kind of negate... Yeah, it should give them a little bit more strength at the back. But although Ben White does get forward, he's not an attacking fullback that other teams really have to concern themselves about.
So they've gone away now for warm weather training and until their next game, which you said, 12, 13 days away. What do you focus on if you're Arteta? How do you handle these next couple of weeks?
Finishing.
Just that's it.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're going to have to do a little bit of work defensively.
Right.
Craig saying that Ben White ultimately is erring on the side of caution defensively because they were really tight. But just recently, they haven't been. They've been letting goals in. So they'll need to do a bit of work with the back line. But yeah, 100%, get on the finishing drills, get everybody with a smile. Any footballer doing finishing drills will have a smile on their face.
OK, unless they're missing.
Apart from Havertz.
well, you should. At this level, when you're doing finishing drills, you should be making the goalie save it. Let me put it that way.
I got to stop.
And they will be, by the way. But really, to me, it's down to form.
Right.
It's not. We spoke about it yesterday. It's nothing to do. I don't think it's anything to do with tactics. It's to do with form.
But can this 2 weeks help?
Yes. Yeah. Takes you away.
Right.
Gets it out of your head.
Yeah.
Get a bit of sun and go and enjoy yourself, and then you come back fresh and with a clearer mind. It absolutely works.
We should all do that.
Yeah,
nice.
well, let's do it.
You're a man that loves going for a bit of sun.
Oh,
yeah, exactly. Last word on this to you, Jules.
For it.
Yeah, no, I agree with Stevie. I think they will come for a few days. Some of the families have travelled as well to Dubai. I think it's going to be good. They did it last season too. A lot of Premier League clubs are doing it. And I think it's the right time. Well, if you don't play this weekend, of course, everybody will have the 10-day break at some point in January, which I think is a good thing because a lot of teams, not just Arsenal, but I think a lot of teams, a lot of players can do with a bit of a rest at some point.
Jules, you should see Stevie's face when they said some of the families have gone with them. What's wrong with that, Stevie?
Well, because one of the benefits generally when you go away as a team is you're all together.
Right.
I mean, everybody laughs when you go, well, it's bonding. I mean, it sounds... But it is. You get together and you spend time together and there's all different conversations that end up coming out. You can't do that when you've got the family there.
I don't think they'd be there all the time sitting next to them, will they?
I mean, they go home every day at lunchtime. Why do you need to bring the family away with them? I really don't get it. I really don't get it. And I'm not...
I'm sure you did some Christmas parties too at that time.
Oh, dear. Yeah, but you understand what I'm saying.
Players can't be away from their families.
To have all the players away together for 4 days, 6 days, whatever it is, part of the reason is to get them together.
Right.
To spend time together.
Well, listen, families there or families not there, whatever it is. I'm with Stevie to a certain extent. I don't quite understand that, but that's what they do, right? That is what they're doing. What we do know is the Premier League title is unlikely to be coming back towards them.
Right.
They're going to have to go and earn it this second half of the season, and that means a big improvement in what we've seen. They're capable of doing it. There's no way we're writing Arsenal off. But at this moment in time, after last year's excellence for 80% plus of that season, Mikel Arteta finds himself in a bit of a quandary at the moment with his team selection going forward.
Meanwhile, away from Arsenal and Liverpool, Kylian Mbappe's entourage have released a statement about his future.
That's all we need.
Stevie, come on, that's not the attitude. There is no agreement regarding Kyle's future, just as there aren't any discussions... Kylian's Kyle. Just as there aren't any discussions on this subject. In any case, no kind of influence can dictate the timing of Kylian's discussions, thoughts or his decisions. What prompted this, Jules?
Well, it's interesting, but on Sunday there was a website here in France, sorry, not here in England, but in France, quite respected, to be fair, website on transfers, news and breaking news and things like that, from quite respected journalists saying that Mbappe had an agreement with Real Madrid and that's where he was going to go, and which felt a little bit early, really, and certainly our sources, and we wrote an article today on our website as well, with sources saying that he hadn't decided yet, and then the family confirmed with that statement, or the entourage confirmed with the statement. And it was also a bit of a response to Real Madrid, because remember there was those rumours that Real Madrid wanted an answer before mid-January, and then if that was the deadline, and if there was no answer before the deadline, then after that it was over. Mbappe would decide whenever he wants, where he wants to go, and who also wants him. Then he would make his mind up whether that's staying, going to Real Madrid, going to Liverpool, going anywhere that he would want to. But a bit like they say in the statement, just nobody will force him to make an early decision, for example, or to take a decision when he's not ready for it. All of that, and it's also a bit what he said after the game the other day too, after the French Super Cup. So really, we kind of expected a little bit some sort of reaction from the Mbappe camp, which we got today.
It's going to go on, isn't it, Jules?
Yeah, it's only just starting, boys.